So let's talk about what is self hypnosis. Self hypnosis is the ability to intentionally, and this word's going to come up a bunch today, intentionally guide yourself into a focused, receptive state of awareness where your subconscious opens up and you're open to learning, changing patterns, and creating. So, as I mentioned, it can be done with recordings, right? You are picking a recording to use to hypnotize yourself, or you can actually be the guide. And that might be a little trickier, but this is what I'm going to teach you is how do you get into that subconscious state by utilizing the power of you, right? Again, going back to that card we pulled earlier, the throne, that I want you each to be the king and queens of your life and your own best hypnotist and resource to create change. So, the keys to success when we're going into this idea, this practice of self hypnosis, is to be intentional. Now, intention is everything. I always go back to when you're creating change, intention is the utmost important because you need to know what it is you want and where it is you're going. It's always great to know what you don't want, but to be intentional, we need to specifically ask for what we want or need the most. And that way, our mind, we will know when we get into the hypnotic state how to frame that. So before you do anything with self hypnosis, if there's a specific thing you'd like to change, we need to get to the root and really be intentional of today I am looking to release fear, or today I'd like to feel more comfortable and confident. And we're going to talk about how we frame things, right? We've talked about anabolic energy and catabolic energy, but we really need to frame them in a way that the subconscious mind likes, because then it's going to go, oh, I can do that. Because if we go all in, or all in or not all in, it's a very finite process. The mind goes, well, if I can't be all in and I can't be all out, what's left? And it just makes it seem impossible to the mind. So intention, and we'll learn about intention setting. Relax the body, right? That's the first step in hypnosis, is relaxing the body, and then the mind is going to relax. Again, it's not about turning your thoughts off. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm such a bad meditator, I can't stop thinking. Again, that's not the mission, that's not the goal. It's about focusing your thoughts, giving your mind the right things to think about. And then it's about visualizing and imagining what it is you want, right? Once we've gotten into that relaxed state, it's then taking your intentions and visualizing them and imagining them, because the mind works in images, right? So when we think about your fear just goes out of control because you're visualizing the scary things, right? How many times have we all spiraled out and been thinking about all the negative things that are going to happen, playing them out to see how we can proactively avoid them? It's fascinating that we've become so good at visualizing fear things. But what if you could become really great in visualizing positive things? This is where your creative cats and your visionaries come from, right? They don't just call them visionaries because they are able to just execute and execute. They have visions, they have visuals, they have imagination. They can see it, they can taste it, they can touch it, they can get it, right? It's because that pathway in the neural network is so clear of what it is they want. And that's a great thing, right? To be outcome oriented, you can see it clearly, and then you can begin to waterfall into taking each step to get there. But that's why they're called visual visionaries, right? Because they can visualize it, they can imagine it, they can see it. And that really helps your mind and your body acclimate into stepping into that power too, to get that. So here's a couple other things that we do know, right? Like, because a lot of times when I'm teaching people self hypnosis, they'll ask me, well, how do I know I was in the hypnotic state? What cues can I know, right? Because when you're working with a hypnotherapist, it's quite easy. I can tell you, I saw your breathing patterns change. I saw your eye movement. Your body was talking. I noticed all these different things, but it's harder to notice that when you're doing it yourself, or maybe you're not going to trust it. So again, what we want to remember is that in the hypnotic state, you're going to feel very focused and absorbed, right? It's not that you're not going to have a rogue thought, right? So think of it this way: when we're in the awake, conscious state, We take in a lot of information, right? We can take in a lot of, I can notice all these things around me, notice the sounds, I notice the cars, whatever it might be, wherever I am. But as we begin to get absorbed into our relaxation or absorbed into the experience that we're having, the mind begins to focus in, right? It's kind of like reading a book. Let's use that analogy. When you're reading a book, at first you're looking at every single word, right? And then those words each flow together into sentences, and the sentence then becomes something else, and you keep going onward. Now, you might notice as you begin to get into a book, your reading becomes automatic. You're not thinking about every single word, and your eyes are just scanning the page. It's doing what it naturally knows how to do. And so you're becoming absorbed and allowing your subconscious to take over. The interesting thing that happens next is that the words that you're reading, right, and the sentences really that you're reading become visuals. Whatever the book is talking about or describing, you begin to visualize it or imagine it, or quite possibly you begin to feel it, right? I know when I read a book, like there are times when I get really agitated or really excited or really sad or really, envious. There are all these emotions that come up. Those emotions aren't there, they're being described. And so that is the hypnotic state. Again, you become absorbed in the book. You're not worrying about all the different sounds, things that are happening. And it's not that you don't hear them, right? They are happening around you. They're just not triggering you to need your attention because you're hyper focused here and you're absorbed in the book. And so it is that deep state of awareness of where you're placing your awareness, though, because if you wanted to place your awareness on the room around you, you certainly could. Or maybe your dog's going to bark, or you're going to hear your child screaming, or you hear a crash out the window. Again, you're going to be drawn out of that focus state to another state. Um, there is, as you'll notice, again, similar to the book is a perfect example. When we get into that hypnotic state, you're going to notice a reduction in chatter. And that is because when you're kicking into the subconscious mind, that logical part that likes to chatter away, that inner critic is much quieter. And it's the part of you, you might hear it kick in going, am I doing this right? Oh my gosh, I'm worried. But allow those thoughts to come in. Again, it's not about pushing them away, it's about having them there and then just refocusing the mind back into the mission and the intention of what it is that you're doing. So if the intention is relaxation in the body through a technique that I'm going to teach you, that's where you want to focus your mind, right? And then you're also going to notice a distance. This is an interesting one because there is a little bit of a distance. It's like the things that might have triggered you once, they just don't have the heat that they usually do or the spiciness. So if you're visualizing a past memory, there's usually like a different experience that you're going to have toward it or feeling versus the fear, the anger, upset, or maybe it's going to feel a little bit lighter. Um, they just feel less urgent, I guess is the best way to put it. So that's sort of what you're going to notice. And again, give yourself time. It does not happen. For some people, it happens all at once. And some days it might be like that for you. But there are other days where it's just going to be a gentle movement into it, into the hypnotic states. Um, the physical sensations that you might feel, I always say the easiest thing to recognize, and this is where I've picked a couple of the techniques to teach you today, are really heaviness and lightness in the body. It's going to be tapped into the mind body connection of I feel so deeply relaxed, and then also I feel so calm and heavy. Heaviness is a wonderful tool that we can begin to tap into. When we tap into the hands or the feet, you might feel a light tingling sensation. Um, Breathing patterns, like I've mentioned, breathing becomes very shallow, like very shallow. Again, when we're talking about the hypnotic state and breath, it's very important to recognize breathing is part of our autonomic system. It happens automatically. To take control of it is a conscious response. It's a logic response. It's a response that we're going to manipulate it with our willpower. And we can. It's one of those amazing responses that you can manipulate. And so when we focus on the breath, we're actually taking ourselves away from the subconscious state. So again, don't worry about the breath unless it's a starting sequence, meaning if you just need to kick the nervous system in through a deep breath or deep breathing. Do it at the beginning, not during the middle, and certainly not um, during the session. We really want to leave the automatic system to do the automatic work when you're in the hypnotic state because we don't want to kick in logic. So you're going to feel, you might notice a light flutter of the eyes underneath the eyelids, and that's a great recognition that you're in a light state. Maybe you'll feel your eyes roll up and inward. That's also going into the deeper states. You might feel really heavy, like you're stuck on the bed or the ground or the chair. I know that we can give the suggestions that it feels like your arms are too heavy to even lift, nor would you want to. And again, it's, oh my gosh, you can pretend, but your body and mind don't know the difference. And so, heaviness, groundedness, connection. Some people will actually feel like they're floating. And again, that's where you're beginning to differentiate. As you go into the theta states, you're going to be pulling away from the body and the mind will begin to lift up. And so, those are the deeper states when it's really just your thoughts and you're sort of unaware of your body. And that's a really beautiful state to get into. You're still very aware, you know exactly what's going on, but you're sort of in this free floating experience. There is strangely a time distortion in hypnosis. It's the same thing when you fall asleep at night. It feels like you've been asleep for 5 minutes and it's been hours. That can happen in hypnosis. Um, so again, like these emotional states, it's like things just aren't as heavy. There may be moments where things at the beginning of getting into the hypnotic state, it's not as visual for you because again, we're using a little bit more conscious mind to get the body relaxed. But once you're in the hypnotic state, you might notice that visuals just pop up and come in. And so that's a really exciting experience when you begin to like have these natural visuals that are coming. Um, you do have easier access to memories, symbols, and insights. Again, you might even have access to past lives if you give yourself that cue. And again, the more patient you can be with yourself, remember this is a practice. It is not perfect. And there are going to be days when you can do it really easily. And then there are going to be days when it's going to be a little more difficult. And you're going to find what rhythm works for you. So let's go back to intention setting. An intention is a clear direction for the subconscious, right? It sets permission, not pressure, right? There's a pressure that sometimes when we're creating intention of how things have to be, need to be, must be, right? It's that coming in, it's like, this is my last chance. It puts so much pressure on it to have to work that it almost is the block itself to allowing the shift to happen, right? And the subconscious mind does not like that pressure because it produces a fear within you. It does not feel safe. And so we want to make sure that we are focusing on one. Again, we got into that anabolic language being uplifting, exciting, inspiring, catabolic language being fear producing, worry inducing, very loose boundaries. It might happen. I should do that. I'm supposed to. So we don't want to live in that world. We want to live in this openness, possibilities, because interestingly enough, when we give a suggestion with possibilities, anything can happen. Um, I had given a suggestion to a client, and it was geared towards smoking, but I kept it very general, where it's like your hands don't want to do this dirty work anymore, kind of thing. Or I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was something like that. And they want to help you, not hurt you. And he started smoking way less, but he wrote me to say, "Hey, I stopped picking my fingers and biting my nails." Now, I never even knew he did that, but it's the way he matriculated that suggestion into something else where it could be useful. So we always want to keep it a little open-ended, very future focused, very present on what you want, desire, inspiration, clear and calm versus, being very directive. It has to be this way because that will get it to kick out. So, here are the four techniques that I want to go over with everyone today. But before I do that, I just want to check into the comments and see if there's any questions that anybody has. If not, that's great. I'm looking forward to sharing these different techniques. What we're going to do, I'm going to talk about them and then we're going to go through an experience of them. So each one we're going to get to experience. You're going to get to play around with it. I'm going to give you my rendition of it. The goal is always to make it your own. Again, throne card, right? Be the king or queen of your experience. Find out what you liked about mine. Find out what you didn't. Other things that you can do. Chat GPT, if you should be so inclined, could probably even help you make a script for yourself. And because reading, right, can help get us into the hypnotic state, have it write a script for you in terms of what it is you want it to tell you to do, right? Let it be the script writer. You read the script, have it formulate it in the I statements where it's like, I am going to draw the awareness down to my toes, right? And as you read it, you can go into that hypnotic state as well. So that's a really interesting thing that you could do as well. Okay, the progressive relaxation. I am actually going to kill the video and just add me, add me this way. Okay. The progressive relaxation is a quintessential relaxation technique that is used in so many different modalities. You'll probably see a lot of it in yoga, meditation. It is basically we are going to move from one part of the body to the next to help your body relax, right? Because we talked about how getting into the hypnotic state is about relaxing the body and then the mind follows suit. So the progressive relaxation is really going to give your mind the ability to focus on each place and each moment. Typical rule of thumb is that if you're going to start from the top of the head, you would start from the top of the head if someone was sitting up. If they are laying down, you would start with the feet and move to the head. Again, it's completely however you want to do it, but try it out, see what works for you, see what doesn't, and you're going to go slowly. You're going to go each part of the body, right? So you might start with, I want you to imagine and visualize at the top of your head a soothing light. For some people, maybe you want to use a soothing liquid flowing down the body. Maybe it is a sensation of a hand touching the top of the head, like a Reiki hand. But however you want to do it, it might just be a thought of, I want to bring my awareness to the top of my head. And I want to think about the top of my head being my center point as I begin to move, right? Because we want to talk to the muscles, we want to talk mind body connection. And so as we start at the top of the head, let's assume we're all sitting. Um, you're gonna close your eyes. And again, you can start with the breath to trigger in that relaxation, right? So we might breathe right into the top of the head to set the momentum, set the pacing. And we're going to go, I want my awareness because it's all about the thoughts, all about awareness. We're going to bring them to the top of the head. Now you can visualize and imagine what it would be like, or look like, or feel like to have a soothing liquid being poured over the top of the head. You could also imagine, visualize, picture, pretend drawing a circle on the top of the head, right? You're giving benchmarks or pointers or placement. You could imagine a light. But whatever you do, right, it's all about moving downward and causing a heavy sensation in the body because when we relax every muscle, what I'm going to use a terrible analogy, but when someone is passed out drunk or dead asleep, right, all of the muscles in the body are turned off. Maybe not all of them, right? But like you are dead weight because the muscles have stopped moving and working. And that's what we're gauging toward is to get the body to be so relaxed that it's so heavy. And when we're heavy, we begin to move downward. And so that is the goal for this progressive relaxation is to move down. And the mind, because down, right? When you think about moving everything down, we know gravity, it's a sensation we can tap into. When we know down, we know it's a finite direction to go. So we're moving down, right? And we're going to move down the body and we're going to question it's like, if I relax the muscles in my neck with that soothing liquid, or maybe that beautiful light, or just with my awareness, If I allow the muscles in the neck to soften, what does my head feel like? We're going to be open to being curious, right? We don't have to tell it to feel heavy. Just being curious of how does it feel if my head got heavier and heavier. And you're going to allow that sensation and you're going to stick with the neck for a little bit until you really feel that happen. Maybe it's thinking about the muscles in the neck being like butter melting. You can use metaphors, right? That every muscle in your body is like butter. And you're beginning to melt the butter in the neck and feeling that heavy sensation. Where does it begin to move? Does it move the head heavier? Moving it down. And you'll notice you can try different things, right? What if my shoulders were like ice and then they began to thaw, right? And allowing it, notice when the sensation kicks right in. Is it with the metaphor? Is it with the relax my shoulders? I relax my shoulders. People learn either metaphorically or directly. So you're going to go learn what works for you, going slowly. Okay, I'm letting my shoulders relax like the weight of the world just melting away, maybe like a heavy backpack being taken off, the stress of the day, the week, the month, the year. Let the shoulders drop. And as I go through this, just recognize how when I say it, where you get the response, right? Let the shoulders feel heavy, let the arms release. And you're going to go down right through the arms. Let the arms get heavy, let the elbow. Imagine your muscles turning off like a light switch. You can turn off the muscles. Challenge the mind. The mind likes a challenge, right? If your arms were too heavy to even lift, I love playing this game with myself when I'm laying in bed. I know I'm in the hypnotic state when I give myself the thought, my arms are too heavy to lift. And that feels great. And I'll pretend to try to lift them. Like, even if I pretend, they actually do become too heavy to lift. And it's crazy. It's like my arms and my hands are glued. Only if you want that to be the case, right? Because you know where you're going is a relaxed state where you can create change, right? And so if we give ourselves permission to rest our arms on the throne, to let our hands connect to our throne ourselves, right? And that throne card being the king and queen of our experience, letting the arms get heavier and heavier, that if I tried to lift them, the harder it becomes. And so I let them go twice as deep. I feel a light tingle in my fingers, right? We look for those tingling sensations, the heaviness, and doing more of what works. And that's a wonderful feeling to let the arms get heavier and heavier. Once the arms are heavy, we can move back down the body, or maybe you're going to notice when your arms are really heavy and your mind is really clear and focused. Sometimes that's enough. And then you can go into giving yourself suggestions of what it is you want, right? Visualizing, imagining that I am, again, walking up onto my platform where my throne to my life is, and sitting down and owning it comfortably, allowing myself to get more and more comfortable with the throne, the crown on my head. But maybe you need more time to relax the rest of the body. And we're going to go all the way down through the chest, thinking about, again, each muscle, each area, giving it permission to release. I know the stomach can hold a lot of tension and a lot of emotion, especially guilt and frustration. And so when we give ourselves that permission to release the stomach, you'll feel your lower back loosened as well. Um, Again, you can just those gentle breaths, every gentle exhale. Again, the natural breath, not the controlled breath. Feeling yourself like you're sinking deeper, like little micro movements down and down. And then just as we did the legs, we can also do, just as we did the arms, we can also do the legs, right? Going thigh muscles, hamstrings, do the knees, right? Maybe it's telling your body it has permission to relax, it's safe. Other things that you can use if you want to go from the toes to the shoulders and the top of the head, you can also imagine a warm blanket. right? A warm blanket being pulled up the body. You could visualize, take a moment to imagine the blanket, what it looks like, feels like. Is it a chunky knit like you're seeing on, Instagram everywhere, or is it your blanket from your bed? Is it heavy? Is it light? And how does it feel when you begin to slowly move it? Can you start the tingling sensation in the toes? Because some people, and this is a great challenge for yourself, is get the tingling to start in the toes and see if with the warm blanket you can begin to pull it up. There's a million ways to do the progressive relaxation. You could even visualize stepping into a tub, right? Placing your foot into the warm water slowly, how that warm sensation soothes the muscles, right? And then slowly slide yourself into the bath. Again, the progressive relaxation is really just about progressing the relaxation through the body. There's a million ways to visualize it and do it. And again, once you've done that, you can toggle into the next relaxation technique, whether, it's the next visual or imagination, or maybe your mind will be open enough that you can then give yourself the suggestions, right, of what you love, what you want. Again, this is where the intention comes in. You may even have an affirmation that you've written beforehand where you can now say it. I am the king or queen of my throne. I feel more and more confident sitting atop it, whatever it is that you'd like to accomplish. So I'm going to ask you, if you are in the hypnotic state, to just take a nice deep cleansing breath, bringing yourself back up so that we can move into the next one. If you have any questions about the progressive relaxation, feel free to drop them in the live chat. Claire, I love my weighted blanket too. And again, it's finding the imagery and the thoughts and the visuals that work for you. And you might find as you use them, some of the visuals are going to be really easy to tap into. And some of them are going to be more imagination, reminding yourself that, again, like the difference is visuals are clear pictures. Imagination is more like, I can't see it perfectly, but it like flashes in, and maybe you're drawing upon a memory. And so whatever helps you, do more of that. So let me go back to the presentation. The next one that we're going to do, okay, the eye fixation. So this is one of my favorites. I think it's one of the easiest to do. All right, so the eyes are a very interesting component. One of the things that we want to talk about when we're talking about eye fixation is to understand the overload mechanism. That when our mind gets overloaded, right, because your mind is like a cup, it can only take in so much information before it overflows. And again, think about trauma. When your mind overflows, it typically fight, flights, freeze, right? And so it will process it later. It just needs to survive. So one of the things that we're doing with the eye fascination is stimulating a lot of information to be flooded in at once to fill the cup. And then we're going to give it the cue that it can come out. Now, we're not going to traumatize the mind. That is not what we're doing, but we are going to overstimulate it. And one of the things, the eye fascination is literally where you utilize your eyes to connect to a point outside of yourself on the wall or the ceiling. I typically like to say that if you're sitting, it's looking directly ahead and then up a little bit. And again, the reason that we want you to look up a little bit is you're already getting the eyes to look up, because when we go into the deeper theta states, the eyes roll up and inward. So you're already getting the mind to sort of toggle into that space, influencing your hypnotic suggestibility. So again, you're going to find that space. So you're going to look directly ahead and go up about like 2-3 feet. If you're laying on your back, it's just finding that place above you. Again, it's not about what you're looking at. It's just creating a place outside of yourself where your mind can focus. We're putting our awareness somewhere. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at it and stare at it, play around with focusing in, focusing out, all of the things that you notice, picking different colors, picking shapes. If there's a fan going, like watching it going around and around and around, and giving yourself the cue of like, I'm tired. I want to close my eyes, but you're going to force yourself to keep them open. And then you're going to toggle the thought of like getting curious about what that blinking sensation feels like, right? You want to think about being tired, being sleepy, because you're already tapping into an association the mind has of sleep. And so as you're looking directly ahead, the eyes are getting tired. I'm sleepy. I'm tired. My eyes want to close. They do want to close because closing them would feel good, right? We're just simply staring and just staring and staring. Have you ever seen kids stare at a TV and when they watch, it's like hypnotic because they're so absorbed in it. And so you're giving your mind that cue. And then you're going to go ahead and give your eyes permission to close. You're going to let go of that stimulus. And you're going to notice the space behind your eyelids. Now, what you're doing when you do that is you're giving your mind permission to enjoy the relaxation of letting go of that micro stress to a calm, relaxing place. And then what you're going to do is you're going to actually have your eyes open again and stare at that spot. You're going to count from 5 down to 0 and close them, or just simply close them. Again, you're re-triggering yourself back to that spot, back to the stress, and then you're going to close them and go back to the relaxation. And your mind is going to want more relaxation. You're going to think about the eyes, sealing them shut, giving them permission to know that they are safe. And when you're in that safe place, that you can then, with the eyes closed, move into a progressive relaxation. You might notice with the eyes closed a fluttering, them fluttering up and down. You're in a hypnotic state. Great. If you want to give yourself the suggestions, visualizing yourself on the throne, this would be the place to do it, or you can go even deeper, right? So it's really giving yourself permission to go, do I want to go deeper or do I feel good right here? Do I want to try going deeper? Again, it's a practice. You are practicing getting into the hypnotic state through self mechanisms. So that's the eye fascination. So I'm going to have everyone join me back here. Any questions about that? Again, we don't need to use counting. It's just a simple find that place to stare at. Keep your eyes locked on it. They're going to want to blink. They're going to want to, focus in or unfocus. They're going to want to close. Let them close when they're ready. And then as you keep going through that, notice how it feels to close them, allow that relaxation, reopen them. You can open and close multiple times if you want, because what you're getting is an incremental depth each time to go a little bit more into the relaxed state. You are giving it the let me stress you out. Now let me give you the escape. Let me stress you out. Let me give you the escape. And the escape can begin to feel more and more comfortable. Like I want that more and more. And then you're going to go into your next sequence of self-hypnotizing yourself with a relaxation, or you can go into progressive relaxation, or you can provide yourself the suggestions. Okay. The next one that we're going to go on to is the pocket watch. Did I miss one? No. Okay. The pocket watch. So let me remove this. The pocket watch, I like to say, is a really great second what we call induction, right? So the process of hypnosis is we induce the hypnotic state. Inductions can be one very long one. It's a majority of what a session is about. So so let me start that again. When you break apart a hypnotic session, there are the inductions and then the suggestions and then the awakening, right? So the inductions are what are inducing you into the hypnotic state. The suggestions are those intentional shifts that we're looking to produce. The ending sequence is bringing you up and out of it. And sometimes there might be a deepening again to put you back into anchor in a word. Those are how I typically do it. So, all of these sequences we're learning for self hypnosis are induction techniques, right? The eye fixation, progressive relaxation, hot bath. The pocket watch induction is actually one that I like to typically use in like a not the primary state placement in the induction sequence, but maybe toward the second or third or further in. Because what happens when you think about a pocket watch, and this is why hypnotists use a pocket watch, again, one, you can use it to stimulate the mind. Again, like an eye fascination, you're getting the mind to focus its attention on something that's moving, you're overstimulating it. The other reason that I like to use it in a later um, induction sequence is because the second step of the eye movements in hypnosis are like the REM state, right? They mimic that rocking back and forth and back and forth. And so it's a very easy thing because, again, close your eyes with me for a second. When you think about a pocket watch floating side to side, if you could visualize it, even if it's not a clear image and it's just a thought of something moving side to side. Play around with the pacing of it. How quick, slow it down, left to right. It's kind of like this very lulling, soothing sequence, right? I feel very cradled and calmed, almost like I'm gently being rocked. And so when you think about the eye, it gets the eyes moving in this REM state. You could think about how when it moves back and forth, there might be a click on either side, right? You'll see an EMDR also there. They use like sometimes clicking that you can snap too. But the goal is that as you're watching it move back and forth, it's going to induce a relaxation and openness and a focus. And when you feel like you've gotten to a place where you're nice and relaxed, you can begin to slow it down. You might even notice it slowly slows down until it hangs right in the center and it's paused. And it's in that pause that you allow your mind to sort of open up as if that pocket watch can turn into a circle and open it, but play around with it. This is where you get to use your creative mind if you want to go, what do I want to do next? Where do I want to go? What do I want to visualize? Or once the pocket watch stops, you can now, because you're in the hypnotic state, implement your intentional suggestions of what it is you'd like to change. So again, the pocket watch, it's just a visualization. Again, it's a focusing technique that can be used in like the second or third induction sequence. Okay, so again, let's take that visual, sort of wrap it up, take a nice deep breath, bring yourself back here into the room where we can go on to the next one. Yes, exactly like a metronome, back and forth, back and forth. And you could use that too, Claire. If you have a metronome, you could use that. Again, it's just like following it, making sure that it's going at a pace that feels good. Allow your mind to pick the pace. You might find if you're anxious, it's more quick, and then it slowly begins to slow down. You might pace it with your breath. Again, I'm not one for like really timing things with the breath, but like you could go in and then out, just pacing it with the natural breath where it's like that way, or maybe the breath is going this way and this way. It does not need to necessarily have the walk and watch going this way. You might visualize it going forward and back as well with your breath. Again, you're going to play to the strength. You're going to allow it to be however your mind takes in the suggestion, honor that. Now, other ways that you can do the pocket watch visualization that don't have to necessarily be a pocket watch, if you're averse to the idea of a pocket watch, you can do a feather, right? Watching a feather moving side to side, right? You could imagine a hammock, swinging in a hammock. Again, it's that gentle rocking. You could imagine rocking your baby. However, you want to visualize that gentle rocking, maybe it's being on a sailboat. I know I personally get very seasick, so I would prefer not to be rocking on a boat, but that is an option. All right, so back to the visuals. The next one. This is more of you've heard me do it. Um, Let me remove this. Okay, the next induction technique that I want to go over is opening the mind, right? When we looked at our induction sequences, right, the part to get us into the hypnotic state, let's assume we've done a couple different relaxation techniques, inductions, and now we're at the place where we want to start opening the mind. We want to really get into the subconscious. This is what I call opening the mind. It is where we're trying to get the eyes to roll up and inward. We want to, when you go into the theta state, which is the deepest hypnotic state, we really want to begin to pull apart the mind and the body, meaning the body becomes an afterthought. And it's really, we just begin to move up and out of the body. And it these deeper states are really great when we're processing emotions. You certainly don't have to ever be in the deepest hypnotic state to get the benefit of hypnotic work. Just remember that. Even a light state can be beneficial. So, but this is if you want to practice going deeper. You're going to visualize like leaving your body. A lot of the times, I like to think about the mind's third eye here in the center of the forehead. And we're thinking of it almost like a little hole or a doorway we can open, and a small circle that we can begin to open up. Maybe it's unzipping from the body, whatever visual you want that gives you permission. I sometimes think of like a small hole that you can begin to open up and stretch so that all of your thoughts can begin to lift and rise, right? It's this theory, this idea of I can get out of my head because we live so logically, right? That our conscious mind keeps us contained, our subconscious mind helps us create. And so it's this visual again of opening up into space, not space like galaxy space, but opening up into just openness, right? That dark twilighty expanse behind the eyelids. Open up, go upward. Again, let the body go down. We worked through different techniques, right? When you're beginning, you want to relax the body, relaxing the body down, and then we're opening the mind up. So those visuals can be a door. Again, it could be an opening. You could take that pocket watch that we had talked about before, and as it stops, turn it into a circle. And that circle, then you can begin to open it, stretch it, manipulate it. Again, it's your thoughts lifting, rising, getting out of your head. Permission that it's safe. Again, make sure that you're giving the mind and body permission to know that they are safe and they can lift and rise up out. Once you're up there, it's beginning to open to the possibilities, right? This is where we're going to take the intention of what it is we want to shift, put it in the suggestive format of, you know, I can, I will, I want, I'm getting more, whatever it is, visualizing, imagine it, I can imagine, make it affirmations. The simplest thing is to create an affirmation at the beginning before your session. Those are the simplest forms. It's like repeat the affirmation there. Affirmations are great given in the logical state, but how much more powerful are they when we give them in the subconscious? Because that's where we're trying to shift, right? To just hear it's one thing, but to feel it, that's another. And so that opening the mind, however you want to do it, again, you might find it might be, unzipping, like I'd mentioned. You could also have a light that draws you up out of your head. There's so many ways to do it. Honor your creative mind, however it decides to do it that day. Play with it. Um, Enjoy it. Have fun with it. Again, the subconscious is there to have fun with. And yeah, it's such a powerful place to get into. And again, you can test your suggestibility if you need that affirmation, that continued confirmation of, well, am I in the hypnotic state? You know, test your arms. Are my arms too heavy to lift? Can I like lift them up? I want them to be heavy. It's like, oh yeah, they're heavy. You're there. You're there. Am I focused? And it's not that you're never going to have a conscious thought. They might pop in. Just give them permission to be there, because a trigger, right? You might have something that grabs your attention, and then the moment you let it go, you go even deeper. So again, even in the middle, we talked about eye fascinations, how you can open your eyes and go deeper, right? You can do that certainly from this state as well, where you can go, okay, I'm really deep, I'm awake, I'm like very aware, I'm floating, I open my eyes, I close them, I go deeper, and just allowing yourself that permission to do that too. So again, visuals, play with it, have fun, float. Where do you want to fly to? Do you want to be flying through the sky? Do you want to be laying on a cloud? Where is that place that you want to soar and aspire to? Okay. The arm pull. This is the last one, and then we're going to sort of be finalized, but let me remove this. So arm pulls. Some people call them arm levitation. People call them, it's also a fun technique that you can try. So the one that I want to teach today is really putting your hands out in front of you. You could be sitting, you could be laying back on your back, but it's having your arms out as if you were holding something. You do not want your arms resting on a chair. Put them out in front of you so that your muscles are the things that are keeping your arms up. You are then going to close your eyes. And you're going to visualize in your arms all the heaviness, the weight, the worry, the stress, everything it is that you want to let go of that is keeping you in this horribly uncomfortable place. You're going to make it like this huge ball. And what's going to happen is you're going to begin to feel your arms getting heavy. Now, technically, yes, your arms are going to get tired because physically they probably aren't really wanting to keep your arms up that much. But as you keep adding stuff into it, imagine placing more and more weight onto the arms, right? This is your visualization. You're becoming suggestible to the idea of heavy things being placed there. So if you don't want to use the visual of all the heaviness and all the horrible things that are going on in your life, just use heavy things. Like imagine you're holding an elephant, 2 elephants, 10 elephants, 100 pounds, right? Like make it finite. The mind knows what 20 pounds looks like. It knows what 50 pounds looks like, maybe. Just visualize those. And the harder you try to keep them up, the heavier it becomes. You might notice your arms beginning to lower down. And when they finally touch, the agreement that you're going to make with yourself is when you finally feel the back of your hand touch either your leg or the bed or wherever it is that you're sitting, is that you're going to just melt. You're going to let all your muscles turn off and drop. So again, it's arms out. I'm holding all these things. I'm suggesting to myself they're getting heavier and heavier and heavier. They're going to slowly, you're going to feel them begin. Now you're going to know you're in the hypnotic state taking these suggestions in because again, it's going to be like this clicking, ticking motion versus just a gentle, smooth down. So you might feel, I know when I get into it. And again, be patient, go slow. Do not rush this. Go slow. You're gonna feel your hand like slowly like tick downward. It's like tick, tick, up like a little, and then it's almost it's not a smooth progressive down. But if it is, that's okay too. You'll know when you're in the hypnotic state because it is going to be like a ticking sensation. But you're going to visualize that heaviness and then slowly. And then the agreement is when the hands touch something, it's almost like that's the trigger, that's the stimulus where every muscle turns off and you release downward. Again, make sure you're in a safe place so that if your body and mind do take in all of these suggestions perfectly and well, that you can be caught by the bed. You're not just like dropping onto the floor and like there's knives everywhere or something crazy. But that those are the arm pulls. It's like play around with weight, play around with that natural ability of your body to want to like go down and sink in heaviness, right? You're releasing these things. And then again, the goal is always once you're in those hypnotic states, you can either toggle on another relaxation, another induction to get deeper, or you go into the affirmations or the suggestions that you want to provide. And then it's about bringing yourself up and out of the hypnotic state, which can be counting from 0 up to 5, right? The mind likes numbers. Another thing that you can do, bonus here, is just simply breathe. Close your eyes and count down from 10 with each breath out down to 0. At 0, implement your suggestion or your affirmation, and then come back up, count back up, eyes open. If nothing else, you are going to get a calming response from the body, and that can be wonderful too.